and welcome back to the Foxfire Farmhouse.
Welcome.
It's a beautiful day here on the in the swamplands, where our farmhouse is situated on stilts above the swamp. The Foxfire is glowing outside in the elevated greenhouse, and the fire is crackling. The smoke is ascending, and we are sitting here by the fire, ready to talk about movies once again.
Ready to talk. Sounds like a witch's hut to me, like a hag.
It does
hut.
sound like a witch's hut, doesn't it?
Boil, boil,
Right, we're gonna take this Foxfire and mix up some potions and sell it.
grind some mushrooms.
We've got our pet alligators out back, like in Rescuers, you know.
Yeah.
We've got one of those little motorboats like she has. I don't even know, like that's not even
like
built off a real
from,
boat.
Like Brave.
Yeah,
Just,
right, just hanging out.
like the little.
There's like an anaconda hanging from a tree as
Yeah.
you walk out.
That's great.
Mossy. Yeah, that's the real Foxfire farmhouse.
Yeah. It's a
Cultivating.
hag's den.
Yep. This is exactly. That's what it is here. This is where we cultivate the Foxfire.
Mm-hmm.
So, have we talked about Foxfire on here? What it actually is?
I think we did last season, but let's
Good. Oh, just a rehash. Foxfire
earlier in the
is
show.
Foxfire, where we get the name, is the term given to bioluminescence in nature. So whenever you see, obviously bioluminescence in nature, whenever you see something glow, like glow in the dark mushrooms that you hear about, or you see there's videos of sand at the ocean with algae that's in the ocean, and the water almost looks like neon blue.
They have it out here.
And do they really?
Yeah. And
Oh, that'd
during
be
the
cool to
summer,
see.
you just jump off a pier, just anywhere in town. And
Really?
You'll get it. Yeah.
No way.
We're gonna have to take you guys out and
Oh,
show
that'd be
you
cool.
that. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So so whenever you see that kind of glow, that they call that Foxfire. And I saw it the first time on a camping trip. We were fishing, and I pulled out, or my brother found a piece of firewood that was glowing on the stack of firewood, not in the fire, out on the stack of firewood, and the outside was entirely covered in just like a bright green glow. And that's when I looked it up, found out it was Foxfire, and that's why we have the name Foxfire Farmhouse, is because we want to cultivate light in the darkness, point people to the true, the good, and the beautiful in digital media.
Indeed.
And so that's, I guess, because Foxfire has to be cultivated in like damp environments. I think that's where my mind went to the swamp.
Yeah.
So, yep.
I imagine you'd find quite a bit of foxfire in the swamp.
That's, I think that's where you'd have to be.
Yeah.
So like just a green glowing hut with like some big potion on a pot.
Little tiki torches everywhere.
Yeah, there we go. We need to make, we need to make a visual of this. This needs
This is
to
more
be
of a Halloween episode.
this is not October, but here we are.
This is March.
Yeah. So let's talk about some movie news. So it's that time of year again when people start talking about Oscar.
Oh,
Not Oscar
yeah.
the Grouch. Although sometimes they can be grouchy.
And sometimes it'd be more fun than the Oscars.
Indeed.
Watching some Sesame Street.
Absolutely. But the Oscars come around each year, and this is where the anyone who's a member of the Academy of Motion Pictures, they vote to nominate who is in the running for these different awards they give out, and then they have a big ceremony in which all the winners are announced. And so this is really kind of where Hollywood pats themselves on the back to say, hey, we did a good job, and here's the things we like. So it's all the people who are making the stuff that says...
They host and televise their own party to show how awesome they are. Look at how we're going to give ourselves awards, and we're going to televise it for everyone to see. We're going to get dressed real nice. We're going to talk about all of the fashion. We're going to
walk in there. We're going to have someone come in and sing some big celebrity.
After shows.
Yeah. And then after parties all across town, and we're gonna try to make money on the show that tells everyone that we were awesome because our movies didn't make money because people didn't like them.
It was so niche that my movie didn't make any money, but it's
I
best
get
movie.
I get the best picture this year.
Yeah. Meanwhile, people are out there killing it, making trillions of dollars, and you get the movie that makes like $5.
Right, but they get the
Best Picture.
VFX nom. So
Yeah.
VFX or score or something like that.
Maybe that's where the real treasure lies.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I still think. I mean, people really do think this, but like they need stunt coordinators to be recognized. Other people, there's plenty of other people that could be recognized. Why aren't they? Like best production assistant. Like why isn't that on there?
Best boy.
Best boy. The best boy.
Best boy.
That'd be my favorite nomination.
Yeah.
I was the best boy. Yeah. There's a
Oh.
reason we don't have that. That's just because it just sounds weird.
Though it has opened my eyes to some of the jobs. Like one of my favorite jobs to like look at now, and like my favorite category, best picture. Obviously, everyone's watching that. Like that's the biggest one. But the art direction. Art direction is my jam.
Oh yeah.
Because I had so much work goes into that.
Oh
It's
yeah.
crazy.
There's one of my favorite things to see too on the credits. If you're one of those people who sit and watch the credits, usually you're just a Marvel fan.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're if you're another one, often they'll have production babies listed. So any babies who were born during production.
Oh, yeah.
And that's always a fun one to see.
Yeah.
When my wife and I think we've already talked about this. When my wife and I were having kids, we would stay and watch the credits just to look
Same.
for names.
We do the same exact thing.
Yeah, but it's a good place to go because there are a lot of names on those things. So I'm going to read off a few of only the ones that I care about, which are the best picture of the year and the best animated feature film of the year. So we're going to read off who got nominated.
All right.
So the movie Belfast got nominated. Coda got nominated.
One of my favorite directors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coda got nominated. This was Napple Original Films. I think it stands for Children of Deaf Adults, and looked interesting. I have not watched it. I have, in fact, only watched one of these.
Yeah.
Another one, Don't Look Up. It's on Netflix.
Still
Kind of
haven't
an
seen that one.
apocalyptic end of the world type talk, type drama film. Actually, I don't know that it's drama. It might be a little comedic.
Satirical.
I've heard it was okay. I've heard it was fun.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Another one called Drive My Car, and I have not heard about that one until just this very moment.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, this is my pick because it's the only one I've seen, and that is Dune.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
King Richard with Will Smith. Then Licorice Pizza. Nightmare Alley. The Power of the Dog, which is the film with the most Oscar nominations. I believe they have 12, and Dune comes in second at 10. So it's kind of really up there in the running for winning Best Picture. And then West Side Story, the Steven Spielberg musical.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that are have been nominated for Best Picture. And then I'm going to jump ahead and go over to the other one that I always look at, and that is Best Animated Feature Film of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got Encanto, Flea, and I have not heard of or watched Flea.
Just read about it.
Okay, so I'll have to check it out.
Probably won't watch it.
Luca, the
Nope.
Mitchells versus the Machines,
Bury
and
that
Raya, and The Last Dragon. So I've watched 4 of those 5.
Mm-hmm.
I would totally go for Mitchells versus the Machines. That'd be my number one.
Close second, Encanto. I love Encanto.
Did you really? You
It's
loved
such a good
Encanto.
movie.
See,
love it.
I didn't love it. I love the music.
Yeah.
We were jamming to the music like
gonna
nonstop
get a
around the
sequel.
house.
They,
Is it
they
really?
just announced today that they're turning it into a franchise because it made such
Nice.
Such amount
Speaking
of
of
good
movie
amount money.
news,
Yeah.
franchise announced
I
for
just read about
Encanto.
that, yeah.
Of course, this is today. By the time this podcast comes out, it'll
It was
be
a couple weeks ago.
week and a half ago. But yeah, so Encanto coming out with another
We
movie.
don't talk
So
about Bruno hit big.
apparently, we're going to keep talking about Bruno
Yeah.
just like they did.
Yeah.
So we don't talk about Bruno hit big in our house. That's for sure. We have danced and jammed out to that one
Mm-hmm.
multiple times in the last week or two.
Have you danced to that one too?
Huh?
From Mitchells and the
Oh,
Machines.
we have danced to that one
Yeah.
a lot. Yep, that's another one.
Yeah.
So yeah, and both
Both great movies about what family is
exactly.
and loving your
Yep.
family.
Absolutely. And so
That's
I'm
why I
glad
love
they're
both of
I'm
them.
glad they're on top, and I hope they win.
Yeah.
Like I would choose Mitchell's versus the Machines, but
I think I would too.
if either of them won, I would be fine.
Mhm.
If I don't know anything about Flea, but if Luca wins, then well, I don't know what to do, but I will be sorely
Hollywood should fall into
disappointed.
the sea if that's the case.
We should just
It's a
LA
beautiful
should
movie.
just
I will
fall
say
off
it's a
in.
beautiful movie. No
It
doubt.
is.
It's got a great score.
It's kind of almost a Ghibli-esque version of 3D. It's like what I wish Ghibli's 3D movie had been.
Mhm.
I didn't watch their movie, but the
Seen
visuals of it doesn't look Ghibli-esque, whereas Luca kind of
It
does.
captures the spirit of it.
Yeah. And
But
so I
the
wanted
story
it
is
to be
so
something.
bad.
Yeah.
Such a bad story.
Well, that's some depressing, some good movie news.
We
for
always
you
talk
today.
about depressing
We do.
new movie
Hey, but
news
you just
every
you
time
just mentioned
Hollywood's
that there's
dying every
Encanto
week.
2. Encanto 2.
Yes.
Just think of that, folks.
Happy.
Ending on a good note.
Cool things.
The cool things this week have been the trailers that have been released.
There have been several trailers that have dropped.
Yes, and they have made me super excited for the DC universe.
Ah,
I'm very excited to see the new Batman. But I think I'm most excited to see the Black Adam movie
Yeah.
because of
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson, good old Pierce Brosnan playing Dr. Fate. Oh, so cool. And then like Justice Society is such like a niche old superhero team that I love it because you can do anything with it. It's not like the Justice League where like you can't do too much with changing them up. Justice Society is kind of, they're old fashioned. You got like Stargirl and Hawkman and Hawkgirl and
Oh, cool.
all these kinds of.
See, these are people I've never heard about.
Yeah, they're like treasure hunters. Like they're just like, the Justice League would just totally destroy them. We're not like Dr. Fate is Doctor Strange for the DC universe.
Okay.
But it's gonna be cool. And Black Adam, he's a really cool character.
Nice.
I love he's an anti-hero. He fills that role of like, he was a king, and so like with being a king, you just have to make some not good. You make not good calls, and they have some consequences. But
Cool.
overall, he's a pretty cool dude.
Nice. Yeah, that'll be fun to see.
Super excited.
I've been digging going back through Bioshock Infinite again. Having a great time playing it. It's just it's got such a big world that it rewards the wandering through it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very linear game. It's not the kind of open world where you just get to explore, but the world itself that you're moving through, you can stop and kind of take time to walk around and just appreciate the detail that the gamers have put into making it what it is.
Voice box, what are they called? The
voxophones, yeah, that you get to go kind of listen to the story of the world, kind of fleshed out in like audio journal entries from people in the world. And it's fun. The game mechanics are fun. I love the whole rail system that you travel around on. Like that is just so much fun, and creates some very memorable fights because then you're able to move around in the world so much while the fight's happening. Yeah. And then her ability to open the portals to these whether it's med kits or walls or turrets or whatever you need. It's just a fun game. Cool. And then there's really fun worlds that open up in the story. The dynamic between Booker DeWitt and Elizabeth and the kind of back and forth there. It's just really interesting. And then so I'm going back through it because I want to eventually get back to doing a full podcast episode on it sometime in the future.
What difficulty are you playing it on?
Oh, I'm playing it on normal. I usually play. I'm not a hardcore gamer. Yeah. But I like more of a challenge than just like blowing through it. So I put it to usually like medium, wherever the medium ends up landing. In this case, I think it's normal.
Titles for difficulties that they have.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think their version is like the 1999 version or something like that. It's like their hardest difficulty on Bioshock.
Oh, okay. Like okay. Nice.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. I don't know why that is the case, but
yeah, I think that I think that there's a lot there to unpack in terms of story and trying to kind of sort out. I want to sort out how it works because in the end, basically, the final scene is a baptism. And so that intrigued.
You open with a baptism too.
You do, yeah, yeah, that's true. You are baptized when you enter into the world, and then you're baptized when you leave the world. And so there's a lot of religious and political undertones throughout the whole thing. And so I'm just going through it again to try to kind of reprocess what I didn't catch or what I did catch the first time. So
we're gonna have to do an episode about this.
Yeah, we will. It'll be a fun time to talk about. The good old Bioshock Infinite, the flying cities.
There. Yeah,
yeah,
such a beautiful game.
It is. It is a gorgeous game. Great.
Like when you like launch up and you get that music and it plays like the old timey like piano.
Yes, right.
I forgot what the hymn is.
Is it Leaning on the Everlasting Arms?
Yeah, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. It's like
right, yeah,
blung blung, and you're like in the sky floating. It's beautiful, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, it's a great world. So yeah, we'll come back to that again. But if you are a gamer and you want a fun story to go through, check out Bioshock Infinite.
It's pretty quick.
And now, our feature presentation.
So today we are going to tackle a recent entry into the Marvel Universe. In fact, it's like an entry into the Marvel... It is the
multiverse.
It is the universe entry.
Yeah.
It is the entry that goes under the title universe because it's a big mythic tale called The Eternals. Actually, it's just called The Eternals, I believe. Yep. And directed by Chloe Zhao. A really big film, a big film for her for sure, coming off of Nomadland, and then she did another one called The Writer. That both of those being Oscar type movies that I think she won Best Picture for Nomadland.
Yep.
And so she's got the prestige behind her. She's definitely not a newbie to the movie world. But this is a different genre and a way bigger scope than she's been a part of in the past. And so we're gonna tackle this film and see what we think about it. And we're gonna compare Eternals to the only film that makes sense to compare it to. Toy Story.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna go back to Woody and Buzz.
That old time classic. I've watched it probably multiple times this week.
And speaking of trailers, have you watched the Lightyear trailer?
Yes.
It looks pretty
David
fun.
Bowie. I just I can't.
If you want to get Elijah behind your movie, then all you have to do is pick the right music for the trailer, and he's all in.
Oh my gosh! I just found this new guy on Spotify. This is another thing that's cool. Quick little plug. Two-Way. 2WEI, and he creates these trailer redos of music. Gangsta's Paradise. Listen to that one. It makes me laugh and smile, but it's so epic and so cool. You just
that's awesome. Yeah. I love his stuff too. I love his stuff to death. Yeah, it's good.
Just makes me want to make a trailer.
So the Eternals. let's go first of all. What is the Eternals? What's the kind of synopsis of the story?
The synopsis,
because we're starting out. We're in the Marvel universe. We're after this is chronologically in line with everything that's come out before.
Yep.
We're post Endgame, right? So where do we pick up with Eternals?
After the blip. Terrible name.
They should have gone with something different.
Anyway,
they need a marketing team for that thing.
Well, the little blurb that they have right here on whatchamacallit, Letterboxd is in the beginning ... The Eternals are a team of ancient aliens who have been living on Earth in secret for thousands of years. When an unexpected tragedy forces them out of the shadows, they are forced to reunite against mankind's most ancient enemy, the Deviants.
The Deviants.
Dun 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 dun. I want to know more about those villainous deviants.
I know.
Oh, that
sorry,
sucks.
folks.
You're not going to learn anything about
Good
them.
luck. Good luck.
They're going to kill them before they can talk.
The deviants are just they're a massive MacGuffin.
Yep,
that's
just
all
a big old throwaway that
They're
actually has huge implications that they could have followed through with.
Yeah, so let's get to that. So the reception of the film has been fairly lackluster, both from critics and audience. So it's not a Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh no,
it's not that at all.
Nope. I think I rated it. What did I rate it? I rated it 2.5 stars.
2.5 stars from Elijah. It's a low hitter.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that comes from the technical details.
Yep.
And I think that then a lot of the technical details, or on further examination, I think it's apparent that there are problems at the core of the story, right? At the very core of the philosophy behind the entire story and what it's trying to do. It's trying to take on really big philosophical and metaphysical questions because it's a mythic tale. It's a big story that's supposed to do that kind of thing.
Huge.
But when it does that, it really fails and doesn't hold up to examination. So first of all, what though, the only reason that we start noticing those things are because the technical execution is bad. So in Spider-Man No Way Home, if you stop and take a little bit of time to think about all the mechanics of the metaverse or the multiverse and things like that, then the whole thing just falls to pieces.
Unravels before your eyes.
Just crumbles. Yeah. It's like pulling on one thread and the whole thing just goes. But I walked out of the theater that night when I watched it. I thought that was so much fun. I loved that movie.
It was great.
And I took my family back to see it. Like it was exciting. It was I loved it.
Was it still just as good the second time?
No.
Quick question. No.
I would say no.
Dang it.
It didn't hold up. It didn't hold up.
Phantom menaced you. All
yeah.
right.
So it was a lot of fun the first time. Multiple watching, it just suddenly the confusion starts to overcome, and I'm just left not being as in on as I wanted to be. But they were throwing so many good things at me, executing with such good special effects, or all of my favorite people were coming back, right? Like it was cool. Yeah. But this movie isn't doing that. So where do you think it failed technically to captivate audiences in the way that something like Spider-Man No Way Home did?
I think it failed because it left too much breathing room, too much thinking room in a way. I think it left it there. I think it was purposeful why it left it there for you to think on these things. But because they didn't handle it well, it didn't go well.
Okay.
So like technically, like my biggest problem with it is there's so much like posing, like everyone just would like stand there and just pose, and then it would like hold on their face for like 3 seconds, and then it would transfer to the next guy. So they would be like, Ajax is dead, and the other guy would go, oh. Cut. Like it would show like all of that, and then it would cut to and it was just every conversation's like that. It takes like 3 seconds after somebody talks to like, or even more. And so like with that, like there's a lot of silence. Like the music's not very loud. The dialogue is very light. It's heavy, but it's sparse, I guess is the term. Just so much exposition. Like,
and to be fair, they had a lot of exposition to do.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of thing that, so you've got a new story, new world, new cast of characters that we don't know. And I mean, it's a big cast of characters.
It's huge.
And we've got to get to know all of them. And they've been on Earth since the beginning of Earth. So they've been around for 7,000 years at the time that the story takes place.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of story to catch up on. And so they've got flashbacks. They have a lot of characters standing around and explaining things. But it just ends up, like you're saying, feeling so slow and so
2.5 hours long.
Yeah, it's a long one.
It's a long one to start out with. Like I would compare it to Guardians of the Galaxy in terms of what they were trying to accomplish. Like Guardians of the Galaxy opened up the cosmic world of the Marvel Universe. Like it gave you rules for it, and it gave you all these things by showing you. That was the issue. They showed what was going on, and that's why they're able to go so fast. Is because they were showing you these things and letting you think about it and going, oh, that's because of this, and letting you come to all those conclusions instead of the Eternals, where it's like there's a scene when they're in Babylon, and the fast girl like drops off some trinkets, and they're like, let's just lie to her and give her less money for it, and she like turns around and catches it, and then she's like, I can sense your vibrations, and your voice and everything, and then the guy says, yeah, she can sense the vibrations in your voice, and you can't lie to her and all these things, and it just, why did you need to explain that? Like just have her turn around and catch it, and then like kind of wink at them and show them that she knew that they were talking, and then you can go, oh, she could sense the vibrations in their voice, or she can read lips really well, or like things like that, where you don't have to pick it up. And there's a lot of that that's missteps in exposition. But then I think that also, so you've got, so in terms of the plot, what happens is you start off, you've got these people who are these Eternals, you meet a couple of them, and then they're attacked by this deviant. So first of all, there's the story that they give, the kind of a little bit of the backstory. You started
see
in Mesopotamia.
Yeah. So this father and his son are fishing, and then this deviant comes up out of the water, eats the father, and then after the son and after the village, but then a group of people land ready to take out these deviants and protect humankind, because humankind needs to grow. So they've been sent on a mission to protect humanity, and they're to see them flourish, but somehow not to get involved in their interpersonal conflicts, only to protect them from the deviants. So they can guide, they can offer them technology, but they can't interfere with their conflicts. They have to let the humans solve that themselves, because if they don't, then they're not going to grow. You know, kind of the idea of parenting. So, but it's parenting a species, a whole race of basically mankind. So that's their job, and there is a lot to explain and a lot of characters to introduce. But it ends up just going so slow. I enjoyed some of the slowness. I enjoyed some of the places that we were in. Yeah. But it did feel kind of long and drawn out. Now, what I did enjoy, in fact, maybe my favorite part of the whole movie, is the dynamics between the different members of the groups. And the different types of characters. Like each character felt pretty real. Like they felt like good characters, and they bounced off of each other well. The conflicts, they were able to, maybe I'm just saying it was well acted, right? Like the characters did a good job acting off of one another. And so I enjoyed watching them and being with them. It's just that the plot didn't make Cersei. Yeah, the plot just didn't make sense, and what was going on didn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, I think it was just like from a story and like a structure perspective, they didn't do a good job of like creating that connection with the characters. Like they wanted you to see these characters as these mythic, like, oh, like we're basically gods,
right? And
we're so powerful, but like, how are we to like connect with that? Like they didn't show, like when they got on the ship, like in the opening of the movie, it would have been great to see them like riffing off of each other in that spot, instead of just like, oh, we're going towards Earth, listening to opera music. And then they get there, And it would have been cool to see, like, maybe just play the whole Babylon arc from the beginning, like show them going from the beginning in history, because those are the cool parts.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
what created the connection with them. So if you would have just like shown them go through history, playing the Pink Floyd song, a waste of a song. I was like, it made me so angry. They played time to like have her like take a picture of a knife that she created when she was like in Babylon. I was just like, and the use of phones and TikTok and views in this movie was so frustrating. But
yeah. So there's a lot of things about the movie that were maybe disappointing.
Yeah.
You talking about that makes me think about Justice League, right? Like the Snyder cut specifically of Justice League. That one somehow I feel like does a better job in exactly what you're describing at it being mythic level heroes. Like they are played and they work, and even they have the long shots staying on someone in slow motion where you're just basking in their glory, but somehow it feels good in Justice League in a way that I don't think it works here. Maybe it's because like her lighting is very naturalistic, right? Her whole approach to the film is very naturalistic.
It's beautiful.
Not, but it's not stylized in a way that makes you feel mythic. Whereas Snyder's emphasis on the characters straight up. Yeah, exactly. It makes them feel like
so powerful, like
incredible.
It gives you a feeling when you see them.
And
that's where they succeeded with Icarus in a lot of points, because they took off of that Superman idea.
That's true.
There's so many Superman ideas, like when he's like standing there and he's like watching Earth from like a perspective, like nothing's hurting him.
Yeah,
like that's cool.
And Icarus, for those of you who don't know, he's basically a Superman character. He flies around. He's practically invincible and has laser eyes. So that's his.
He flies too close to the sun. Spoiler alert.
In case you didn't see that coming.
End and I was like, he's gonna fly into the sun, isn't he? And it's just like, I'm like, this is so.
That was on the nose.
That was so on the nose. Like he didn't even explain it. He just flew into the sun. I'm like, what? Why? Why did you do that?
All right. So speaking of that, let's get to some of the let's get to the bigger like worldview philosophical issues, because that's really where this thing begins to fall apart.
Yeah.
So where would you start? You teased the deviant thing. So let's go there first.
Yeah.
So and maybe that's more of a technical issue, is that you introduce these villains.
Yeah.
These are the villains. These are the bad guys who are coming, and they're back. We thought we wiped them out, 500 years ago.
We're only going to put them in 3 scenes in the movie.
But they're showing up again. And so they're the bad guys. But then we barely ever see them. And so first of all, let's finish the story for people, because they need to. So you've heard half of the story.
Yeah.
So what gets unveiled in the middle of the tale that isn't told in the synopsis we read is that the Eternals have been sent by their celestial leader, whose name is Arishem. I'm going backwards. Whose name is Arishem. He has sent them to get rid of these deviants.
Yeah.
And that's their goal. That's their only thing to be there for. And now they finished. They destroyed all the deviants. They don't know what they're there for. They're waiting for Aramesh to give them directions or to send them home or whatever, to get back to Olympia, where they're from. And in the middle of waiting and then these deviants starting to arise again, they began trying to figure out how to stop the deviants, and they're all meeting up with each other. And they end up discovering through the course of the story that what's actually happened is that Aramesh sent them to kill the deviants so that there would be more humanity on Earth, so that a new celestial can be born from the heart of the Earth, and
killing all human
life.
Sacrificing them.
Yep. Everybody. Basically, this is kind of like, what are they? The energy for the emergence
their intelligence
of this?
feeds the birth of
somehow.
Tiamat.
I don't. That's not exactly explained how our brain power feeds the birth of Tiamat, the new celestial.
Just believe it.
Just go with it. Just go with it.
Keep going.
They said it. I believe it. That settles it.
All right.
So Tiamat's gonna come, but apparently the god, or the Aramesh, also sent the deviants originally.
Yeah, he created them
to wipe out the predators to the humans.
Yeah.
Is that what? Am I thinking correctly?
He created the the deviants to create a narrative for the humans to see the Celestials as good. Like he sent them to kind of like to keep it growing, because like to weed out kind of bad ones, and then the Eternals would come in. Like it's almost like this angel.
But then the deviants ended up attacking the humans, and that wasn't what they were supposed to do from the beginning. And so then the angels come to fight the deviants.
Yeah.
But then the deviants end up realizing that they are not, or the Eternals, they end up realizing that they are not actually some kind of being with existence outside of their god, their Aramesh. Mm-hmm. Instead, they have no home Olympia. That's just a planted memory.
Yeah.
And they are
robots.
They are fancy robots.
Mm-hmm. Their memories get taken every time and stored in a organic computer thing. And
then that whole memory is accessed by Aramesh. Anyway, so if this sounds confusing, it is. Mm-hmm. And they take 2.5 hours to confuse you thoroughly. But then when the Eternals, they'll find out that this new Celestials emerging from the center of the earth, they decide they're going to try to stop the emergence.
Yeah. And
so they work together with technology and all sorts of other stuff that doesn't make sense to stop the emergence that is going to happen. And but then Icarus has known this all along. Mm-hmm. And that's why he kind of fed the deviants and helped to wake them up, I guess, so that then the Eternals would be so busy taking care of the remaining deviants that they wouldn't be able to stop the emergence, because he knew that that's what Ajax, the leader of the Eternals, wanted to see happen. So he kills Ajax, feeds her to the deviants, and then the deviants take her power, which turns out to be totally inconsequential. Yeah. But the deviants are the weirdest. I just can't explain how oddly they're placed. But they, I can't explain it. It's just incredible that's how it would work out.
They survived to the actual draft of the story.
So what you've got then is the Eternals fighting against Aramesh's will in order to stop the emergence from happening, because they want to save humanity. They care about humanity.
Yeah. Some of them have like relationships with humanity.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point in that movie.
And so if all this starts sounding like so let's just start. If you're a Christian and you're watching this movie, some things should start to stand out to you immediately.
Yeah, there's some big red flags from the beginning of the movie.
So what would be your first one? There's two big ones, I know.
There's a big one to start out with. The first one, you start out the movie, they start out in Mesopotamia, which is like the birthplace of civilization, even in the biblical narrative. That's where Abraham was called out of that region, and that's where
their whole story literally begins. It's not just the letterbox that starts with in the beginning. The story begins with literally in the beginning. So it's
biblical script.
Yep. So it's meant to harken back to biblical ideas or the big origins of the world.
Yeah. And so it gives you that little walk down. You're like, okay.
Which that itself isn't bad.
No, but it's trying to evoke something. And then you watch it and they're in Mesopotamia. And then their home base is out of Babylon, which should throw off some flags for Christians that read.
And it's not just their home base; they are actively defending Babylon.
Yeah,
against
keeping it safe
the deviants.
From the deviants. Yeah, and so then helping Babylon thrive and grow and become great and mighty and golden and give them technology.
And Babylon is kind of the embodiment of what they're protecting in the movie. That is the symbol of
the good thing. Like when they show it being a good thing, people are good there, and everything's going great, and they're revered by the people of Babylon. Anyway, you kind of get through that story, and then you have all the big idea of the creator and the creation and the conflict between the two of them.
Yeah. Which the idea isn't bad.
No.
But then you've got in the Tale of the Eternals, you have the Eternals as the angels commingling with men and defending men against the god
from the city of Babylon.
And so we're right squarely
their creator.
We are squarely in the middle of Genesis 6.
Yeah.
Right before massive destruction. So in terms of the symbolism of the story and what the Christian view of the story would be, is that the destruction that's about to come is exactly what is warranted.
Yes.
And that basically we need to put some people on this spaceship as the ark. And, who are the people that find grace in the eyes of the Lord? Throw them on this big triangle ship and get them off world, because this world deserves to die.
Yeah.
And so
this world's in rebellion against its creator.
Yet the good guys in the film are the Eternals, these angels who are standing up against their God.
Because they love humanity so much.
Yeah, so we've got to deal with that big
Don't
question.
mind the fact that they're revered by humanity and worshipped by them, but and that they're behind every hero and god in the Hindu pantheon and Sumerian pantheon and Greek pantheon. They're named after all these pagan figures in almost every culture.
Gilgamesh, Athena,
Druid, Ajax, Circe, Icarus. Like these are all off names of
So this is at least starting to show that there is some kind of pagan root to all this, which in one sense, where Christians shouldn't be afraid of using the pagan imagery. Lewis and Tolkien, these guys were masters of doing that, and somehow redeeming it. I mean, Tolkien takes the myth, or Lewis takes the myth of
Psyche
and
I always forget the other guy's name.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't speak to it.
Yeah. So he takes that myth and he turns it into almost a Christian tale
Eros?
called.
Is it Eros and Psyche?
Anyway, I think you're right. Yeah, Eros and Psyche, and takes that and turns it into Till We Have Faces, which is a Christian version of the story. So I'm not at all against Christians taking these stories and taking what's good in them and redeeming them. I think that's exactly what we are called to do. But this story takes all of these things and plays with them in a way that I just don't. In one sense, it is either downright just not good in terms of bad, or it's just confusing and there's no coherent view to it. So
exactly,
there's a So again, reframing the big thing. The God has created these angels. Arisham has created these angels, these Eternals, and has sent them in to do his work in the earth. They think that he is unjust for destroying the humans, and now is going to fight his will by stopping the emergence of the new celestial, Tiamat.
Stopping the birth of a god.
Stopping the birth of a god. So here they are. They've been created for this purpose. It's so bizarre.
Yeah. It's just uncanny. Like
I just watched. So okay, so this is gonna get us way off track. But I just my kids watched one of the Ice Ages this year. Collision Course, I think is the name of it. So the opening scene is with Scrat, the character from Ice Age. It's always like causing all the trouble. So he's chasing this acorn, and it falls, and he falls down this crack in the earth and goes to the very center of the earth. So at the center of the earth is this little core, looks like a ball of ice.
Yeah.
And his acorn is sitting on top of it. But when he starts to run on it, the whole thing rotates. And what he doesn't realize he's doing is he's spinning the core of the earth. He's destroying, he's creating the continents, basically. He's cutting into the continents. And then he ends up going so fast, he ends up smashing his head out certain sides. And so that's how the Sphinx in Egypt is made. And Mount Rushmore is like his four faces, smashed up against. So it's just goofy stuff being played. But that's exactly.
But it wants you to take it
imagery,
serious.
The imagery from that movie of him falling to the center of the earth is almost exactly what the imagery is in Eternals of the planting of the seed of the god or whatever it is in the heart of the earth. And so it just makes me think that on one hand, this is a goofy, here's heart of the earth thing. And then the other movie's this is exactly serious.
Is so serious. This is believable, right?
This is for the Oscars. Yes. That's what's going on here.
We're going to make it big. Marvel's going to make it to the Oscars, which they did.
Just not with the Eternals.
Unfortunately, with Sony's help, which is surprising.
Right. So anyway, back to where we were.
Story.
Back to the story. So that's the story that's happening here. There is in antiquity, there is Euthyphro's dilemma, which is one of Socrates' dialogues. Socrates is talking to Euthyphro. Euthyphro asks Socrates and says, is something good? Basically, here's how it goes. Is something good because the gods will it to be, or do the gods will it to be because it is good? In other words, is something that you value as being good and morally right good because the gods just arbitrarily decided that this is exactly how it's supposed to be, right? So God says, well, you know what? I don't want you to kill people. I don't think you should steal. Here's my 10 commandments. I just thought this up in my head. This is just me making up how this is the dictator on the playground saying, hey, no one goes down, girls on the yellow slide, boys on the green slide, right? This is some kind of random because I said so type thing going on with the gods. Or are the gods saying, hey, this is how it should be because this is what's good, that they're appealing to something outside of themselves, some standard somewhere else, someone else who has set the standard. And so he asks that, and it's considered a dilemma then that Socrates has to answer. The problem is that it's a false dilemma. Other people have said that basically a false dilemma is a true dilemma is when you have A or non-A. A false dilemma is when someone says is it A or B, because there's very often C or D or the rest of the alphabet. And so this is a false dilemma because there is another option in classical Christianity. The answer that they would give is that the good, God is good, not just God does good by some standard outside of himself, but he is the standard of good and he is good itself. He is love is another way we talk about him. Another way we talk about him is he is justice. Right. Yeah. He is, I am, I exist. I am existence, right? It's not, he doesn't exist in the same way that we do. He's not just the biggest being inside this bowl that is the universe. He's not just the top dog. He is something entirely other. The scriptures say that it is in him we live and move and have our being. Yeah. And so he is not appealing to some other standard, and he is not arbitrarily, these are not arbitrary dictates of a God who just willed that things would be this way. These are in line with his very nature and character. So,
and with that, it's in line with creation.
Exactly. Right. And so as creation lives out goodness and truth and beauty, we are actually getting in line with what we are supposed to be and what's best for us. Yeah. So in this case, Euthyphro's dilemma is really kind of in the story set forth because you've got the Eternals who look at what the God has demanded. He has created them. He has given them a purpose. He's given them a mission. And they say, we don't think that it's fair that you're doing it this way. Humans don't deserve this kind of destruction. But you have to ask then, and what they don't answer is by what standard is the God wrong for caring about the humans? And if there is no, and so they don't appeal to a standard. Yeah. And so what they end up doing is just being the arbitrary force on the other end of the stick, right? Like saying, hey, well, we've got the power to stop you. And so since might makes right, then I'm just going to flex my Eternal's power and we're going to stop you from doing what you want to do because I have the power to do that. And in which case then it's like, okay, how are they any different at all from Aramesh? Yeah. You know, we just don't have any, like,
they're both wrong.
They're both, in that case, either they're both wrong or they're both right. And suddenly there's no good reason for them to be stopping Aramesh. Why can't Aramesh do what he wants to do if you can just do what you want to do? Yeah. And if he's got more power, then so be it. Let him do it. But then even Aramesh, though, when he comes in the end and takes them away to look at their memories.
I'm going to go think about this.
I'm going to look through your memories and judge whether or not humanity is good. Yeah. But then it's like, okay, so there is a standard out there. What standard is Aramesh going to use to judge?
The judge is like his title. So like,
what law book is he looking at when he's judging?
You, Aramesh? Yeah, that's the question.
Exactly, right? And the next Marvel movie, that's who's above. Like, yeah. I mean, we can just keep making this eternally, you know, like where it's turtles all the way up in this case. Yeah. But there is no ultimate standard that they're appealing to. In which case, then who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, and we don't know. And this is where I think it's just really it's like we begin to run away from any kind of real coherent vision of what is right and wrong. Yeah. That really the only vision of what is right is whatever I want to do, and if I have the power to do it. Yep. And if I don't have the power to do it, I'm a victim. If I do have the power to do it, then I'm a god. Right? Like that. Like it's almost it's just there is no coherent worldview that undergirds the whole thing.
No. Yeah, that's why it's so hard to even talk about it, is just trying to figure out, like, to sift through all of that, because like you're saying, it's just incoherent. It doesn't make any sense. It's incoherent in the Marvel universe because it breaks so many historical ideas and laws and like
exactly. First of all, if they are so interested in humanity, why now, as opposed to, you know, like 15, 20 years ago, when half of the existence of the universe was just gone? Why not then?
Yeah.
I mean, so they waited around for 5 years and watched the Avengers like try to fight Thanos, like go and get this back, and they were just like, I guess not.
It doesn't have anything to do with the deviants.
And exactly. And then, like you pointed out,
Yeah.
deviants pop up on the scene. You know, I guess everyone else is just chilling, you know.
Yeah, where are the Avengers in this entire movie? Earthquakes are happening. The world's shifting. A giant hand comes out of the earth. There's people who can
Like
teleport in the Marvel universe.
A worldwide earthquake happens.
Yeah, it's a galactic like a giant being comes up to Earth.
Yeah.
A giant being.
And somehow the Avengers, like the emergence is
Guardians
happening.
of the Galaxy doesn't know what's happening. The Avengers don't know what's happening. Everybody in like little shows doesn't know what's happening.
No, they're all just over there, you know, hanging out,
Just hanging out,
having a good time.
Like
thinking,
you can't even use the excuse that they were like busy. What's busier than the Earth like
yeah,
about to be just
Thanos is gone. There's nothing big enough that they're like, yeah. They know.
Where's Doctor Strange?
And how many times do they like register big events that happen in the world? And then the Earth's core suddenly starts to shift and a god is like coming up out of it somehow, and you're not aware of this. You know, like, so yeah, that's even more, I guess,
anyway.
technical coherence.
Yeah.
But like, there's just not really coherence to the whole thing. And I think this is something that should encourage Christian filmmakers.
Yeah.
That number one, we cannot so I think there would be a place, I guess. Let's back up. I think there would be a place for us to use a talk like this to demonstrate the incoherence of the secular worldview, to show that it is empty. It doesn't have coherence. It doesn't stand up against any kind of examination, right? Like, so I think that there'd be an apologetic benefit to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't particularly, I mean, I think that's good and helpful. And I think someone could do that somewhere else or in more detail and kind of like bring it into people.
Yeah.
But that, I think what's interesting to me about this is that, like, if I'm for the creators, the people who are going to tell stories, who are going to either write screenplays, books, novels, movies, make movies, we need to think through things more than just creating a world that sounds interesting and fun that people might want to live in. We need to tell stories that reflect the story that we are a part of, that reflect the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't, it doesn't just, when we don't have a coherent worldview, it doesn't just damage our world. It's not like the worldview is disconnected from the quality of the story. The worldview is intimately connected with the quality of the story that we're telling. And that's why we, especially as Christians, right? People who say we believe this need to be people who make a coherent story. Yeah. Right. So I wouldn't be,
because when you make an incoherent story, you're saying basically like your worldview is not incoherent. Like, there's something wrong with your worldview.
Exactly.
So,
and even still, like with this movie, movies made by big studios like this are harder to be really coherent.
Yeah, because you have so many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah. So who knows how much, like, we could blame Chloe Zhao maybe,
peg
but
it on her necessarily.
Yeah. But like someone could make a story.
It's a lot of money riding on that movie.
Yeah. Someone could make a story that is a coherent portrayal of a secular worldview, right? They are totally coherent. And that would be, okay, you're coherent. This is what you're aiming at. Yeah. You're not trying to like manipulate audiences. Yeah. I'm fine with that. Now, I think that the only worldview that is truly coherent is the Christian worldview, and therefore, by definition, any worldview that they try to tell a story from that is totally cohesive in their own worldview is going to not match up with how I think the world should be, and so there are going to be certain flaws in the story. Yeah. Right. In as much as it deviates from a Christian worldview, so I expect that. Yeah. But for Christians, we especially should be careful to try to tell stories that reflect that worldview that we have.
That's what we get at when we talk about something being true, something like being like having the aspect of truth. Like, this is like feeling, it gives you that feeling, that real feeling when you're watching something, you're like, oh, that's true. Like whether it's like romance or action or whatever, and you recognize that as being something that is consistent within the world that we're living. And so if something is true, then it belongs under the headship of the Lord. It belongs in his realm and is consistent with that. Now, if you start throwing these falsehoods in there, it just gets real.
Yeah. Do you know a story that is true, does tell the truth?
Yeah. Toy Story.
Yeah. That's a story that tells the truth. Yeah. Toys created by their maker
Mm-hmm.
for one task, to give a child joy, to be there for that child.
Mm-hmm.
And when a toy acts like he's not a toy,
Mm-hmm.
aka Buzz Lightyear,
Yep.
and he denies that his existence is governed by anything other than, you know, the packaging on his that he has on his marketing material. And when he doesn't admit that that's what he is, he runs into trouble, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
When Woody is jealous of another toy because that his child finds more joy in the toy than him, instead of being there to serve the child, he begins to be there to serve himself. He's needy. He's not loving the child for what the child needs. He's loving the child for what he needs from the child.
Yeah.
So he's selfish.
Mm-hmm.
That goes wrong, right? Like instead of just being there and serving the needs of the child. Toy Story 2, what happens? Woody wants to be the collector, you know, the collectible, the museum piece, because, but he has to remember.
Because he'll last forever. He won't get damaged.
Yeah, exactly.
He
has to remember damage is part of life.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a toy.
Feeds his ego.
And then he ends up, exactly. And so he ends up having to give that up, and he helps others give that up. And then you've got Buzz, who is confronted with another Buzz Lightyear that's not him. And he realizes kind of who he was or is reminded again of who he is in a way that is a foil to.
And has to remind Woody that he's a toy.
Right. So then he comes back and he's the one saying, look at the bottom of your shoe. Whose are you? Right.
Yeah.
Who do you belong to? And what do you exist for? And then Toy Story 3, they're going to the daycare to serve, like everyone is having this existential crisis, and Woody decides to stay. He wants to stay with his kid instead of going to the daycare. Everyone else is afraid that they're getting thrown out, and so they go to the daycare. But when they do that, what happens? Another toy who was thrown out by his owner, who is now desperately bitter that he was thrown out by his owner, is kind of running this show because he wants to be on top. He's just bitter. He's angry. Yeah. And he takes out on other toys. And instead of being there to serve his child and understanding that, like, and serving the other toys, he instead is there for himself. And it doesn't work. And it fails.
Exactly.
And Woody has to come save them, right? Like this kind of thing. We are there. We were created by a God for a purpose. And when we align with that purpose, life goes good.
Yeah.
When we don't, life goes horribly wrong.
Yep.
And so that series of story, tell the truth. Now, Toy Story 4, we'll talk about that someday in the future. But
throw it into a dumpster fire.
Do what Elijah's done and don't watch it.
I'm never going to watch it. I probably will for this podcast.
We'll probably have to watch it for the podcast. But he'll suffer. He will take the hit for you.
I will.
Yeah,
I'll take that on.
This is him stepping into
Josh
his role.
will watch Braveheart.
And I will eventually watch Braveheart, which I don't think is nearly as much of a chore as watching Toy Story 4.
Movie.
But Toy Story is a good example of the kind of story that you should be watching. So
of a creation doing what they're created for.
Exactly.
And which is a good purpose. That's why the Eternals is messy, is because, like, I don't know. It's just so messy because you're like, it's not necessarily the greatest purpose in the world that they're there for, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even the kind of purpose that you would want.
The
God, you actually,
they're justified.
You can't help but because we're borrowing. The thing is, okay, so here's the thing: is that they and we in the movie are borrowing from a worldview that is incoherent. In that world. Because we're borrowing from a Christian worldview or from a worldview that says humanity matters, right? From at least a humanist worldview. And so we're saying that humanity matters and is worth saving, and that's kind of one of our core beliefs. And so,
but it never tells you why.
No, it doesn't.
To be honest, like it doesn't. Other than, like,
but that's why I'm saying the movie works because we bring it to the table. Not the movie didn't bring that to the table and tell us why. But we bring it, and we have our own reasons, whether you think it's just the survival of the species and that's why it matters, or whether you believe that we were created by God and we are in his image and therefore we matter. Like, whatever your reason is, you brought that to the theater. They did not provide that for you in the film.
No, they don't tell you why that is the case. So it's It's frustrating.
It is.
And so like, and that's when they like, it also creates like this false picture of God as well through the story in terms of like some of the rants that some of them go on, like, what's his name? Fastos.
Yeah.
He has like this
right.
whole rant about how he's created and everything. And it's an obvious allegory to him being a gay guy.
Mhm.
And he's just arguing and like, I don't care like how I was made or why I was made this way, born, created, whatever. And like, it's him yelling at God. Basically,
Yeah.
like there's it's so heavy-handed. Like,
And
you
the
can't
story,
not
he's
say that.
he's justified because the God is arbitrary.
Yeah, he's arbitrary and unfeeling and not caring about that.
Mhm.
But that's the thing. That's where it's this false dilemma where this is not a correct portrayal of God or anything close to who God is. And so like they
set up God as a straw man and tried to turn him. Or he's a big tin man, really.
Yeah, he's a big gem man.
The gem man in the sky.
Yeah. And so like, and when they're yelling at this thing, you're like, yeah, well, you are justified to yell at that thing.
Yeah,
because that thing, it doesn't care about. Like,
right.
yeah.
There's a reason I'm on side Eternals when I'm watching the movies because I don't want to go for him.
That's where that false dilemma comes in, where we have like the correct answer and we have the correct cosmology to answer these questions and be like, well, that's not who God is. God is this. God is like just what we just talked about. God is love. God cares about us. God knows all of us, and we're all created in His image. That's the worth that we have is that we're created in His image and we have a purpose.
And this God who exists and gave us a purpose and then has watched us deviate from it. That God entered our world. He became one of us and died for us. Yeah. So this is not an impersonal, uncaring,
somebody who set the clock and
arbitrary God who just kind of is using the earth as a fuel for his ego. Yeah. Right. This is something very different than that.
An intimate carrying God who has grace and has love.
He's way like so you can see how different, how much bigger and out of the world this God is. Aramesh is from his world, right? Like so when he shows up to get the other people, like he's towering over the earth. It's like a really cool visual.
I love that vision. In the theater, it like made me when I was driving out, I was looking at the sky, I was like, holy moly, like that would be terrifying. Like these clouds rolled back and like his face showed up and it echoed through the city and you're like, whoa. Yeah,
where the earth is like, imagine holding a softball to your face. Like that's how it was. Yeah. And like the God we worship as Christians, as different as that God is from us, the God we worship is so much more different than that to us. And so the chasm is so much greater, but he is also way more personal than that God, right? He's something entirely different than that. And he's worthy of worship. He's the kind of God who is awful and awesome and worthy of reverence in the same way that kind of people reverenced Aramesh. Yeah. But he is good. Yeah. And I mean that in the he is goodness. He is goodness. He is beauty and he is true.
By our standards, like not just by that, because our standards are dictated by him.
God is the standard of what is good. Yeah. And he is this is when we look at a movie and we say this movie is good or is telling the truth or is beautiful, what we are trying to say is that there is something about the nature and goodness of God that is being refracted through this film. Yeah. And it's never going to be perfect because we cannot perfectly talk about God.
Even if a Christian filmmaker makes it.
Like, even if a theologian tries to put exactly into words what God is, it's still analogous. And that gets us into a different theological discussion on the simplicity of God. But we cannot put God into words like that. So it's always going to be a refracted version of saying something about God. Yeah. And in our fallen state, it's always going to be incomplete and somehow inaccurate because it's not just inadequate in that we are finite, it's inaccurate in that we are fallen. Yeah. And so we're never going to get there. Yeah. But when we say something is good in a movie or someone did something good or this is beautiful or this was true, we are saying it lines up with the way the reality is, the way God is. That's what we're saying. Yeah. And that's our standard. And that's why we have the Foxfire Farmhouse podcast is to talk about movies and like think about movies in light of that. So, which is why we say, look at the bright, shining Foxfire of Toy Story. Yes. And say, look at it. Yeah. And say, don't fall for the fake, whatever this is.
Natural lighting of Eternals.
Yeah. Don't fall for it. Don't go for it.
Don't go for it. Yeah.
Don't take the Oscar bait.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Also, just a little slight thing. Not a kid's movie. Just letting parents know.
Yeah, first time Marvel has had a sex scene in a movie.
And a very openly gay relationship. And, and
so it's not, definitely not for kids.
Yeah.
I mean, if kids could even stomach just the movie itself.
It's so boring. I don't think a kid would like sit through the first 10 minutes of that movie.
Only an adult that's sophisticated enough to
try to think through it.
To act like things are good when they're not.
We watched it the other night. Me and my wife rewatched it, and it was just so bad. We were doing laundry, and it was on the background, and just the guttural, primal, that was like coming out of both of us as we're watching it. She's like, "Can't we just watch something else? This is so bad." I was like, "I know it's so bad. Like I just want to watch Boba Fett at this point. Like Boba Fett's so good." But no, we sat through that whole movie just for you, audience.
Just for you.
To remind ourselves of how inconsistent. What did it say? It didn't say.
Don't expect a Toy Story 4 episode very soon, because we've got to recover from watching Eternals.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some more good things before we get back to something bad.
Yeah, indeed. Well, this has been another episode of the Foxfire Farmhouse. We're glad you came on in here. You wandered in, sat down with us, and listened to this whole episode of Foxfire Farmhouse. If you have ideas for future shows, if you have movies that you want us to watch and talk about, or if you just have questions about movies in general that would be the kind of fodder for a conversation, we take all of that here at the farmhouse. Just come post it on our door. Do like Martin Luther and nail it to the door. Or like the fake Martin Luther, I think. I don't know. People argue about whether he actually did that.
Whether he did it. But I feel like he's the kind of guy that would do it.
I want him to have done it.
Yeah. It just fits with his character. He's the bull.
It just sounds better.
He's such a bull of a person.
It. Yep. Yeah. So do like Martin Luther, at least the legend of Martin Luther, and tack it on the door. And we'll take a look at your questions and comments and get them into the show. Like, subscribe, comment, all the things that you do for podcasts and YouTube stuff. Do it, and we'll be back again next week here at the farmhouse.